You're watching PowerNation. Project Cream Puff is in the final stages of fabrication, engine, transmission, and some plumbing.
Plus, we'll show you how to make precise cuts on custom exhaust systems. All that and more coming up on Music City Trucks. Well, hey, welcome to Music City Trucks. And as you can see, sitting over here, we got our Project Cream Puff C10 in the shop today. We got it stripped down to its bare frame to knock a few things off our checklist.
Yeah, so we finally got the real engine for this beast. Now we got to get rid of the fake engine that we used to mock up some things. So let's get the transmission out of here, and then we'll get that bolted to that engine back there.
You ready to lift?
All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
All right, it's on that table over there. It's separated. Oh, second gear.
Whoa.
All right. Looks good. Come on this way.
Having a hoist is nice.
All right, down the table. Going down. That'll work.
All right. All right, I'll go grab the other engine.
Yep, grab that. I'll get this separated.
Hours later.
All right, now for the transmission, you've already seen this in between the frame rails already, but I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about it a little bit. This is a 4L80E 4-speed transmission, automatic from Gearstar Performance Transmissions. Now this particular one is what they call a level 4, so this one will handle 800 horsepower. Now we've matched it up with a Yank torque converter, 2800 stall on that torque converter. It'll be perfect for that engine there. They actually run this on a transmission dyno, make sure everything works great, and they'll send you the video of your transmission on the dyno. See if Anthony's got that engine ready to go.
All right, we got a 427 coming your way.
All righty.
See if we can't get this thing together.
Some tension off this thing here, get it off the stand. All right, that'll work. Free bird.
Going up.
Get it up here on the table and we get these two together. All right, your way. We do-si-do.
Do-si-do.
Down she go. All right, now before we made up our transmission to the engine, a couple things we got to check. Now, one thing, our torque converter is already installed. If yours is not, it's very simple. You'll take the torque converter, slide it on the input shaft, and typically you feel like 3 distinct clunks as the splines mesh up. And then the end of the hub of the torque converter, make sure it's engaged into the pump of the transmission. You'll make sure it's set back far enough. Then another thing is the hub on the back side of the torque converter here, make sure this diameter is the same, or that should be a little bit smaller than in the back of your crankshaft, so it'll slide inside of it. That's what locates and holds the front of that torque converter there. Now we've already got our Flexplate here from Summit Racing. This Flexplate is SFI approved. It's a billet steel Flexplate, so it's going to be strong enough for our application here. All that's good. Let's just slide it together and get it bolted up.
Ready to rip?
Get it up on the dowels there. All right, that's started. Torque to 37 foot-pounds. Now, Gearstar offers a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on their transmissions once you register it with them and provide one critical measurement down here the torque converter to the flex plate clearance. Now, right now the torque converter is all the way into the pump and it's not up against that flex plate. There's a gap there. We have to measure that and record that. If it's too much of a gap, what happens when you tighten it up to that flex plate, it's gonna disengage from the pump and cause premature failure. So we're gonna go ahead and get this measured. A couple of ways you could do that with some feeler gauges to measure that gap. If you don't have feeler gauges, you could take a couple of drill bits. We've got a 3/16 and an 1/8 inch drill bit. So it's kind of like a go, no-go gauge. Most of you have some drill bits there. You could slide up in that gap and see how much you got there. So I've got our feeler gauges set up right here. Let's see here. I can get that measurement from the back side. All right, right between that pad, right there. Okay, take that. You could add them all up or just take some calipers and measure it out. And that puts us right there, 125 on the small side. So we're good on our measurements. Now we'll go ahead and get it bolted up to the flex plate. And now the next part, we gotta attach the torque converter to the flex plate, and it can be a little bit tricky because the only access to it is where the starter would be in this general area. So you had to make sure the starter's off, you get access to that bolt hole. You know, we'll take our bolts, I already put some red thread locker on there, we'll get them started. I don't like to tighten them one at a time, I get them all started and then we'll go back and tighten them. It's always good to have an extra set of hands as you can work here, and your buddy can turn the engine over, like Anthony. Go ahead, turn to the next one there, pal.
I got you, bro.
All right, you can see that there. So there we go. We'll just go ahead and get them all started and then we'll go back, torque them. A couple more here, go ahead. Okay, grab the torque wrench. We'll set this to 46 foot-pounds wide, not 46 versus 40. That's just what they say. I'm not gonna argue with them.
Don't argue. It helps having that wobble extension on it, I would imagine.
On this little angle, yeah. One. Okay. All right, well, with all that bolted up, tightened up, she's ready to get back in the frame rails there.
You want to slap that starter on first?
Yeah, I'll grab the starter. You want to grab another strap for the transmission?
Let's do it.
Coming up, we turn this tubing into a functional fluid transfer system. Now, another thing we need to tackle on our truck is the plumbing. Now, this truck had a lot of options on it, but the kitchen sink wasn't one of them. Now, the plumbing that we're talking about is the fuel and brake lines. And anytime you're plumbing the whole vehicle from front to back, you want to run hard line as much as possible to give you that strength there and that protection. Now, the materials for your hard line can vary. You could get steel. You could do stainless steel like this one right here. That's going to provide a lot of strength, a lot of corrosion resistance, but it's very hard to work with. It's hard to bend and shape the way you want it, and it's also hard to flare the ends of it so you make your connections. Now, a good option here is our NiCop or nickel copper alloy line. This provides that strength, but is also able to work with it and able to flare it a whole lot easier than that stainless steel. So that's what we're going to use on our project, is that NiCop line. Now, when it comes to flaring the ends of these, you got two different flares. It depends on what you're working with. You got a 45-degree flare and a 37-degree flare. Now, all of your AN style fittings are going to be a 37-degree flare right there. Then when it comes to your brake lines, like your inverted flare or your double flares like this, that's a 45-degree flare. So depending on what one you're working on, that's going to dictate which flare you use. Now, to make that flare, well, that's the subject of today's Summit Tech Tip. All right, now I just cut a section of this tubing out to show you as an example on how to do these flares here. Now, the biggest thing you need to pay attention to is when you make the cut on these is the treatment of the end of the tubing before you flare it there. So you take your deburr tool. This one's really nice. It can go on the inside here. We can clean up that inside edge. And then if you flip this over, we can clean up the outside edge as well. So that is the key in making a proper flare, is getting that edge taken care of. And once we've done that, well, we can get our flaring tool out. For our flaring tool, we've got from Summit Racing Equipment their Pro Flaring Tool Kit. We've got this guy right here. We'll get it set up on our vise. All right. And then the next thing you need to do is figure out which die you need to use. So I got 4 different dies in here. This particular one right here, this is for 3/8, that's 3/8 line. And on one end is 45 degree, the other end is 37 degrees. So that takes care of both for us there. So we'll put this in, that's set up for 37 degrees. Set this down here, all right. Move that over, flip this over. Okay, take our stop here, thread that on. Okay, get that snug. And then we need to pick our appropriate die right here. Now we've got a 37 degree and our 45 degree. Once again, we're doing 37, so this is the one we're going to use. Snap that down. And then on top here, we've got all of our operations listed. So op 0, the first one is getting the tube square into the die fixture there. Now I haven't tightened this down all the way, it could still move a little bit. So I like to set that down and let that tube pop out. And then we're gonna move this in, and that's gonna bottom out right there. Can't go any further, so it's bottomed out. And now I'll tighten this up all the way so it's got a good grip on that tube right there. Then our next step, it depends on what type of flare you're gonna do. If you do a double flare or a single flare, this particular one, we're gonna do a single flare for 37 degrees. So we'll look at the operation for 3/8, for operation 2, which is gonna be that single flare. We'll spin this around. And then I like to put a little bit of lube on those dies there. Try to keep the durability of it there, but make it last a long time. So this is tight. All right, we've got our die there. And now all we have to do is push this in. And what it's gonna do is gonna take that tube and make our flare there. So it stops. Pull that back out. Now we can loosen this up. Open that. Pull it out of our dies. And there you go. We've got a nice flare. Now this is the point where most of you seasoned technicians say, oh man, that looks really good. But you forget about the tube nut and the ferrule, all right? I've done it a lot myself, as you get so excited about doing the flares that you forget to slide this over the end first. Now, lucky for us, we just have a small section right here. Let's slide that on like that. And then we can hook that up to our fitting and we're ready to go. So that's how you can make your flares. Like I said, that one was for 37 degree, a single flare. We can flip that around, do 45 degree. We'll change the dies out if we want to do a double flare, which we'll use for our brake lines. So next time you need to get some flaring tools, check out Summit Racing Equipment and all their options.
Think getting a straight cut on exhaust tubing is impossible? We'll show you an easy trick to give you clean and precise cuts, making for a better fitment.
All right, now I've got most of our fuel lines and brake lines fabbed up and installed on the truck. I added a couple of plates to give us a mounting point for the bulkheads. And what that's gonna do is allow us to break the line up a little bit so we can navigate through all these components like our cross member and the brackets here from where we shorten the chassis. So it makes it a little bit easier to make those lines. So we got one more to do up front, but now we're gonna kick it over to the exhaust.
And the exhaust is going to start with these headers you see sitting right here. Now, normally you don't see a long tube header like this in these extreme lowered trucks, but Jason Van Natta over at Van Natta Fab actually turned us on to this little trick here using these Doug's headers made for a 64 through 72 A-body GM car. Now, they fit really well. They tuck in between the frame rails. They don't get too high, and they don't hang too low, which can be a real problem with these lower trucks. So they're gonna be a good starting point for our exhaust system.
Yeah, for me, I love to have the exhaust within the frame rails of the vehicle so they're not underneath, they don't look too ugly.
Well, with the truck being this low, you have to.
Exactly, right. But then on the back of the truck, you know, we've got a lot going on with the airbags, the trailing arms, you know, the rear end's gonna have a lot of movement between lowered and that ride height position.
Yeah, not to mention I mean, we have so much stuff back there, it's just gonna be a nightmare to try to get back.
Yeah, so we don't really have a lot of real estate for tailpipes out the back. So we're gonna go with a little bit shorter exhaust system, kind of go right behind the cab, dump it down. I think that'll work out fine. The engine, it doesn't have much compression, so it's not gonna be very loud, you know, so.
Yeah, we got this little bullet style muffler we're gonna put right here. Go underneath this cross member. You know, our driveline angles kind of dictated where this cross member had to be, and of course it had to be right in the middle of the frame rail.
Right.
So we gotta deal with that, but I have a couple tricks that I wanna show you though here over at the table to get your exhaust system cut right and fit nice and tight. So I'm gonna head over there right now.
All right, I'm gonna get this other header on.
Sounds good. So whenever you're building a custom exhaust system, you're gonna deal with a kit that comes with a lot of different bends. And you have to make sure that you cut each one of these bends right, or you're gonna end up fighting yourself when you go to weld it. So this is a 180-degree bend, and what we need to find on this is what we call the centerline radius. And that's gonna be directly in the middle of whatever bend you're using, whether it's a 45, a 90, or a 180 like this. And so I have it drawn out here on a manila folder, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. So each one of these bends is gonna have some kind of straight leg on it. So we're gonna find where that straight leg starts, and we're gonna make a line across, just like so. And then we're gonna find the center line of that bend, and we're gonna make another line. And then where those intersect is what's gonna give us the straight cut that we need for whatever angle that we're gonna be running. So say we wanna do something like that. And this is how the guys that are doing the pie cuts, this is how they do it. They find the center line radius, and then they just incrementally go around it, and that's what gives them their pie cut. So we'll set like this, and right there in that intersection, put the point on it, draw a line, and that's gonna give you a nice straight cut. And so if you didn't do that and you cut it at an angle to the centerline radius and it was running more vertically like that, you're gonna have it's gonna look like a football. And when you go to weld that, you're gonna have a big gap on the top and the bottom, and it's gonna be a nightmare to weld. So you don't wanna do that. So now what we have to do over here on the truck is we had to get underneath that cross member. So I already cut these up here, and basically all I did was take a piece out of the bottom of that U-bend and did that just like so. And then I figured out, this is about a 45-degree angle, and that got us underneath of that cross member. And it gives us a nice straight line from the header over here to get us to the back of the truck on this side. So let's get this back over on the truck. We'll get this tacked up and we'll show you what it looks like. We start fabricating our exhaust, turning it into a welded work of art, or at least something that won't fall off on the first test drive. All right, we'll slide this in here. Now, as you can see, this is a little bit above the frame rail, so I kind of got to angle this down a little bit so I get nice and flush with the top of the frame rail. Which looks pretty good right about there. All right, so you just want to tack it in one spot so you're able to move it around. All right, get our piece here. See how we're looking? Now I'm trying to give a little bit of clearance under the cross member because I don't want anything actually touching. So when we go back and we put our brackets on, we got some space. All right, so I think I'm gonna need to use rod on this. Hey Mike, can you give me a hand over here?
Okay.
Okay.
What you got?
Just hold that. I gotta use rod.
Something
Something nice and tight. Ooh, you're a brave man not using gloves. I'll do my best.
Don't make sparks.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, we'll get this tacked in. Now, it's a good rule of thumb to make sure that both the inside and outside of whatever tube you're welding is nice and clean, especially with stainless. All right, let's get our little bullet muffler in here, see how we're looking. All right, come on down a little bit, Mike. Yeah, I think that'll be good. All right, well, to close our exhaust system out, I'm gonna break one of the rules that we just talked about. And instead of going to my centerline radius, I'm actually gonna run parallel to it. So that creates our turn down. Now I got one more little trick here. to find your center line radius, and that's just using any old hose clamp. You put that on, tighten it down, and that's gonna give you, it's gonna keep square, and it's gonna find your center line radius without you having to do anything. Now you do enough of these exhaust systems, and it kind of just comes second nature, and you'll be able to mark it out. Let's go ahead and let's get this thing cut out. Well, all right, as you can see now we have a nice turn down for the end of our exhaust, you know, and it doesn't matter that this is gonna be oblong because it's the tip. So let's go get this thing tacked on the truck and then we're just gonna be about done with this. All right, see what we're looking like here. Yeah. Look at that, nice and simple, nice and easy. I think honestly we should do all the exhausts like this.
keep it short and simple like that.
Yep, just kiss it.
Maybe, you know, it would have been a little bit neater to go out the back and different sound, but we got a lot going on.
We did that on the OBS. You know, that was a really complicated exhaust system, so it's nice to get a little break.
Right, this will be a little bit simpler, gets the job done, so.
Yeah, we'll probably put a heat shield over there just to protect all the lines, but yeah, got to get some hangers on it and obviously get the other side done.
Knock out the other side, but once we do that, that's pretty much all the fab work.
Yeah, and then we're basically ready to go to powder coat.
Yeah, strip it all down, get it sandblasted and get it coated, and then back for reassembly after that. Well, that's all we have time for today. If you want to follow progress on this build between episodes, check out our Instagram page, Music City Trucks. We'll catch you guys next time. All right, well, let me help you get this welded up here.
Let's get her tacked in.
Get rolling.
Right on.